Hey, family, it's Denise Hill. Listen, I've been transparent about my challenges with depression. I've done that so that others who are challenged can be inspired and informed so that they too can have victory over depression. I got together a number of voices in an interview series for you. I've gotten psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, counselors, even holistic health practitioners so that they can give you multiple perspectives about this thing and give you more information and tools that you can use on your journey of mental health. Make sure you take notes and, of course, make sure you stay encouraged because you too can have victory over depression. I'm here with Dr. Edward Barnett. He is a behavioral modification specialist and a therapist. He's also a pastor with degrees in divinity, humanities, professional counseling, certifications in anger management, just runs the gamut concerning behavior and even how that behavior affects our ability to be successful and proceed toward our goals and achieving our goals in life and in our professional careers and in all areas, just finding peace, which is what this is about. We want to talk about depression. Hello, Dr. Barnett.
Hello, good evening, Miss Hill, or may I have the privilege of using your first name, Denise?
Of course, we family here.
All right. Well, then you can call me Ed.
I can't. You're Dr. Barnett, always. It just, I don't know why. It doesn't go both ways. Leave it alone.
All right.
Okay, let's talk depression. Can we start with a simple definition of depression?
Yes, it's really important for people to remember that depression is a mood disorder. It is a state of mind that results basically from a combination of things. Genetic mapping, which could be DNA, biochemical, which we may talk a little bit about, which is neurotransmitters or chemical substances in the brain, or an environment, your culture that you're raised in. And last, there are psychological factors, the way you see and interact with the world and experiences all around you. So with a combination of those things, if all those things are not going well, then they could put you in a low level of functioning and a discontentment, which is uneasement or unhappiness, and could lock you into a state of depression.
If all of those things collectively aren't working together, or any one individual thing?
It can be from anyone, or it can be from collective, any two, any three. But those are the four areas that usually depression will arise from. One of those areas, or overlapping areas.
So in behavior modification, which is your specialty, can we talk about how you can modify your behavior to alleviate depression?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me say, in order to get to the solution of what's going on, and I like to tell all those that I work with that there is a solution. There's always a solution. Many people just can't find it, but there is a solution to every problem. So whatever the problem is, if you are open to answers and if you are serious about discovery, you can find the solution. And your question to me was, how do we start? And that's first getting a person to recognize that they need help, getting to recognize what was the event that triggered, what was the scenario that was playing while this person, what was the last remembrance of the scenario that launched or caused this state to happen. You know, usually a person will say, well, the last thing I remember was, okay, so that's where we start. And we try to go back to see what were the factors that led up or led to that last thing. And then we move forward.
Okay, can we begin even a step prior to that, to how would someone know when they are depressed and when to seek help for that?
Okay, well, let's talk about okay. When you talk about depression, everybody that's alive get depressed. So we all have stages of having up days and down days. And depression is just the low level of contentment where you just don't feel like doing anything. And everybody has days where you don't feel like doing anything whatsoever. And that can be a mild form of depression. When that type of feeling or state of mind is, I like to say, elongated or carried out over a long period of time, two things happen. First of all, you have such a low state and feeling about yourself until you start to have what we call mental anguish or mental pain. And it could be because of things people did. It could have been because of things people didn't do. It could have been of what people said, but you are thinking a certain way that causes you to be depressed, have a depressive mood, or a mood that makes you feel like you just don't want to do anything whatsoever. And so from there, what I do is to help a person find that area and then relocate what happened and separate that from who you are. Who are you really? And when a person understands and can know the difference between what they experience and who they are, then they can separate the two and get on a road of recovery or a road of being cured, because you realize you are not a total sum of everything that happened to you, because you could not control everything that happened to you. And so when a person understands that, then they have some type of hope that they can come out of the state that they're in. I spoke to a young lady just 2 days ago. She drove from Baltimore and met me halfway. And when I met her, she said, Dr. Barnett, well, she calls me Mr. Barnett, but Dr. Barnett, she said, I've been asleep for 42 days and I can't wake up.
Wow.
I said, you've been asleep for 42, and I'm looking at her. She's talking to me. She drove all the way from Baltimore. She said, I am into something. I can't snap out of it. It's been 42 days. I haven't slept. I've been in my truck, and I began to talk to her. I can't tell you everything was said because that's confidential, but well, one thing I did do, I don't advise everybody, this is not common practice, but this is a young lady who is almost like a daughter to me. And what I really sensed from her, first of all, there was a disconnection. She had no support. So I just told her, I said, well, first, let me just give you a hug. And that was a connecting point for us. I said, I felt like you just needed to get a hug. And wow, she had such a deep sigh when I gave her a hug. And then I just listened to her. I said, what happened? And she began to explain to me the scenario, how maybe one of her best friends was killed and she saw it and she could not get it out of her head. So I had to let her talk it out. And then I began to map some things out for her concerning the incident and what happened. Well, when she left, maybe about an hour from that meeting with me, she drove back to Baltimore. I did not check with her that evening, but the next day I texted her and I said, sorry for not checking with you last night, but how did your night go? How did you do? She said, I'm okay. I'm doing better. I slept last night. So we on the right road to recovery. So just a little bit of talking to alleviate, to get out of her the thoughts that were depressing her, and putting some positive thinking into her mind, along with a sense of somebody cares, was enough to allow her to at least begin to relax so that she could go to sleep. Once you asleep, there is a restorative process that our bodies go through when we are unconscious and resting. So when we wake up, we're a little fresher than we were when we went to sleep. So with that taking place, she was on a road to recovery.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, I mean, I would love for you to go back to, you said everyone experiences depression at some point.
Yes, yes.
Can you speak more to that? Because there's a kind of stigma attached to people who are depressed, if you will, by those who feel like they're not. Or let me say it this way. We need to normalize not feeling well so that we can get help. And
Correct.
of course, like you said, if that extends past a certain period of time, there needs to really be some intervention. But even one day for someone can be one day too many. And as long as we kind of view people with depression over here and everyone else over here, then we'd never get to a place where we're able to support each other, let alone get to a place where we're able to ask for professional support. So can you speak to, can you help us understand that, in fact, everyone does not just have a bad day, but experiences depression?
Yes, yes. Well, certainly, first of all, let me take it from a mental health standpoint. From a mental health standpoint, what mental health looks at is clinical depression. And clinical depression is when it's been elongated or a long period of time and you cannot come out of it and you need professional help. You need treatment. You need therapy from a professional to help you at least begin to understand what's going on. So that's mental health. Now, but what we're talking about is not clinical depression. We're talking about everyday ups and downs, and everybody has depression because all depression is being unhappy. And sometimes it goes deeper and deeper. And what makes us unhappy? When folks don't do what we want, when folks don't do what we say, when we don't have what we think we should have, all of those scenarios can make a person unhappy. When you're trying your best and nothing is working, it can make you unhappy. When you think you've got a great plan and you put everything into it and the bottom falls out and nobody's there to help and you feel like I have nothing less, I don't want to try anything else. In fact, I'm even mad at my friends because they should have helped me and not let me fall. My family should have came in and helped me. So we can all get into that state of feeling unhappy or unease without ease. And ease means to be smooth, to be gentle, and things like that. So everybody has that scenario where people let you down, where we let ourselves down. Things we say we would never do, we find ourselves doing them. And then we begin to put ourselves down. And so, you know, some folk go as far as to call themselves name. I'm stupid, or I'm dumb, or I shouldn't have, you know, we go that deep with it. And if we continue in that, it puts us into a state of thinking. It locks us into a regular way of mapping out how we have concluded who we are and our lives. And if you stay in that place, then that place becomes a habit. And that habit becomes a part of your character and who you are. And that's why many people can say negative things about themselves. And some folks will say, well, why are you saying that? You're not stupid. And they'll say, oh, yes, I am. And that is because they've been in that place for so long, for so many things and so many mistakes that they know that they have made until they have not connected with a source that could help them. It's called schemas, help them to remap out what's happening in their life.
So when I ask you when someone should look to find support or help out of their depressive state, it would seem to me, rather than waiting even if it's one day of being down, you should seek some form of support, whether it's conversation with a friend, your go-to therapist, or what have you. We should not wait until it gets to a place where it's defined by its clinical status. Would you agree?
Well, I would say don't panic. If it's one day, sometimes going through an experience with depression or going through any negative experience can, in a sense, be helpful. Because first of all, it slows you down, it makes you stop, and it makes you think first. So when sometimes we're moving too fast and we have too many thoughts and too many things going on, and something happens that stops us in our tracks. And that may be considered negative, but it could be what I like to call an unwanted friend. And that is something happening, and it could help you positively because it's slowing you down so that you can critical think or think through what has happened, how you could have done it, what's another way of doing it. So instead of being emotional about it, we want to put some intellect with it and think through it.
That's big. I know with some of my coaching clients, I have a go-to tool that I use called I know versus I feel. And those feelings can completely throw you because it's real to you. It's like, this is happening because I feel it. And that may not actually be the truth of what you know about a situation or about, a person who perhaps you believe let you down, or a situation and state of being, right? That may not be the reality of it if you focus on what you know versus what your emotions are allowing you to feel.
Exactly. In fact, let me say this, because most people use the term feel the wrong way. Most people use the term feel as if it is an emotion, and it is somewhat an emotion, but really your feelings is your intellect. Let me explain, and this will help some people. First of all, emotions. Emotions are automatic responses from past experiences that we've had. So the reason why you have emotions over certain things is because of past experiences to something similar or to the same thing that's happened before. So when it happens again, it generates a certain emotion in you. And now, when you experience that emotion, watch this, it registers in your mind, you think about it, and you come to a conclusion about that. That's what feelings are. Feelings are your intellectual conclusion that you come to based on the automatic responses from your experiences that you've had in the past. So when a person says, you hurt my feelings, really, you can't hurt a person's feelings. You can hurt their emotions. You can hurt their what they are attached to in their experiences. But the feeling is that mental conclusion. This is a definition of feelings. It's the mental conclusion that you come to based on past experiences that you've had. So in your mind, if someone, let's say somebody hit you in the back of the head when you were in the second grade walking down the hallway. Okay, since you've had that experience, now when you walk down the hallway, you don't let anybody walk behind you. Why? Because you don't want anybody to hit you in the back of the head. Well, what made you do that? Your feeling, your thought about that. It wasn't the experience we remember, but it's the thought that I don't want that to happen. So my feeling is to do something different.
So to be able to navigate that landmine of emotion and intellect and experience and conclusions that we've drawn from all of these that may not be working toward our benefit, but in fact they're detrimental to us being successful in this state that we call depression. What strategies can you suggest for navigating that? Who should we go to? Is it a therapist? Is it a psychiatrist? Is it a psychologist? There's so many different things. And is it a life coach? There's so many different options available. What do you suggest for someone to begin that process?
Because there's a matrix, and we don't know with certainty how the person got to a place of depression. We don't know if it was genetic. It could have been something in their DNA and genes, or something passed down. So we don't know how that could have got there. It could have been, I like the term biochemical, which we always say neurotransmitters, or substance in the brain. And let me just say real quick with that, the substance in the brain is, in our brain, we have something called the amygdala. And the amygdala controls emotions all through our bodies and sends signals through neurons and neuron endings throughout our bodies, helping us to feel happy and sad, or glad, or whatever our emotions is. Now, when our amygdala is full of things like serotonin, a dopamine, that those are good feelings, and that gives us a high sense of happiness, and it encourages us to keep going, to keep doing things, to keep trying no matter what. You can fall 1,000 times, but as long as you have happy thoughts, you can get right back up and keep going again. Now, when that amygdala is depleted of a positive thought, let's say we've been in a culture where everybody told you you're no good, nothing is good, and everything is bad, and you begin to embrace that and believe that, then and your thoughts and your mind sense that, and so there's no happy transmitters going out throughout your body. So before long, your body shuts down, because if there's nothing happy going through your body, then the stress level, anxiety, and those things raise. And when they raise, then those are the barriers. That's the opposition. And sometimes we don't even have people around. It's just us building the barriers and oppositions, because we have not collected enough neurotransmitters or substances in our brains or thoughts that will help us to continue to think grounded, in terms of, even though I may have missed it, maybe the next time I can. We used to say a little nursery rhyme: if at first you don't succeed, try again. I can guarantee not too many millennials know that. But as a baby boomer, that's what they told us, because we hope for the best, but we prepared for the worst. So when we fell down, we got up and tried it again. So okay, so we don't know how that person arrived to that state. So it could be for a person who, if it's not genetic, then it could be that that person just needs a life coach to help them build up the thoughts, and to build up the self-esteem that they need, because they have the intellect, they have the ability, they have everything they need, but now they just need a life coach to help them to basically go forward in what they know that they can go forward in. If so it's something,
I'm sorry. So that's one extreme to the other. Should they start with trying to find out if there's this physiological challenge within them?
Well, I think most people that know their families will know the physiological challenge, because that's passed down. Let's say if mama had asthma and you're born, you have asthma. Okay. And there's going to be challenges that come with that. Now, some people grow out of their asthma because mama may not have been athletic, and I may have been athletic, and being athletic may have helped me come out of my asthmatic state. However, I needed to have a coach or someone to help me to understand that, yes, I have a problem, but I can recover from this, or I can go further than where I am. So it's hard to just judge and tell which state that person needs to be in. I would always say that whoever the person is, if here's the golden thread. If you know you're not yourself and you're not feeling or doing what you know you should be doing or could be doing, then I would, at the lowest level, I would talk to a friend that I confide in and just share with them and let them play it back to me so I can hear what I'm saying. If that doesn't do it, if you are religious, I would go to a pastor and ask for prayer or ask for them to talk to me. Children can certainly go to their parents. Many parents may not. There's a lot of parents that don't have a lot of education, but they have watched their children from birth, so they know their child. They may not know other children, but they know their child. So sometimes just going back and sitting down when everything is quiet and talking to that close relative or that family. Now, that won't work for a person who was adopted, because the adopted or foster parent may not know a whole lot about the child they adopted. And so they're just trying to nurture from the best way they can in that type of scenario. So that's why I said it's a matrix, because you really never know. You just try all components. But I think the person that believes or understands that they need help should try several sources. They should try a spiritual source, like I said, a pastor, imam, or whoever, whatever their religion is. They should try someone who can reach them spiritually. They should try a therapist or a psychiatrist, or you can try a psychologist. Let me just say this, that I was trained in 2 schools. And there are 2 schools of when it comes to psychology. There is the eclectic school, which is worldview, which is a broad range of sources, styles, and methods to help a person with, whether it's medications or psychosocial. It's a broad range. They use whatever and mix a lot of different styles and modiums together. Now, then there's Nothetic. Nothetic is Christian counsel, is biblical counseling, and that is directive and authoritative, because that person or that pastor or Christian counselor believes that the word of God is wisdom, and since God is the author of life, that he understands life better than anybody else. So they are more direct with helping a person with changing their thought life. You know, most people's thoughts are based on their emotions and not their their feelings is the conclusion they come to, but it's really truly based on their emotions. That's why when a scenario comes back, they begin to respond the same way or a different way. Now, when we had biblical counseling, that biblical counseling changes the whole state of the way you think and look at a situation and your life and yourself, because now you're not looking at what happened or how you feel, but what God said. So that can be a difference, and that could be a deal maker with a lot of people, because in a lot of instances, the counselor is not firm enough. They just agree with the counselee in terms of who they are and what they want to do. And the counselee is in a hodgepodge of confusion trying to find out who they are. But when you go to that Christian counselor, that Nothetic counselor, they're going to say, no, but this is the way that it is. You may not be experiencing this, but this is the way it is. And once you get on this path, you will begin to experience these things because it is universal.
It's like you said, there's a myriad of options And it can be very confusing to someone who knows they want to seek help. And the encouragement is to just do something, to try something. And hopefully that will lead you in the direction of what you truly need. I know my concern when you say kind of look at your family to see if there has been any lineage of mental health challenges. And I can only speak from our community, the African-American community, is that we didn't talk about these things,
Right.
like I'm as an adult just finding out that, there's been some things in my lineage so I've gone through all of these years trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And it could have been a physiological issue from the beginning that could have been addressed in a myriad of ways. So, what do we do about having some of those tough conversations with family members to find out, is this just me and it's situational because of what I'm experiencing right now? Or is this something that I've been feeling for a while simply because it's within me that needs to be adjusted in addition to my thinking and my mindset and some habits I might need to break? There perhaps is something chemically that is a challenge. How do we have those conversations with generations who have never had those conversations?
And that's a wonderful question, because just as we say right now, the world is changing. Families are changing. And if you go back just one generation, or if you go back to, one generation, as a baby boomer, we were taught that you don't sit in a room with the adults. The adults in one room, you in another room. Okay. Now, the generation before that was even much stringent than that. Now, we have to remember, as African Americans, we've been only legal for about 70, 75 years to be able to legally read. Slavery is not that far back.
Right.
And the mentality of slavery, we're still trying to break. So what I mean by that is that a lot of our parents were not intellectual enough or educated enough to explain what happened. They just know stuff happened to them. And so they weren't comfortable with talking to their children about stuff that they didn't know, because maybe they felt inadequate as well. Now we have a new generation that's wide open, that's talking about everything. Yes. But we also have this new generation that's more educated than those generations were. So they're able to talk about more. So as the change happens, we are experiencing some psychological and some mental trauma and maybe even physical trauma that we did not really realize. But it's coming back up because we're now talking about it. But that's the first part of healing, beginning to talk about it. So perhaps we're at the brink of a strong surge or generation of healing as African Americans or whatever gender and even genders. Genders are confusing right now. I mean, because at first in our era, there was publicly known male, female. And now we are at a point where you have to address a person by what they identify as. Now, if you tell a baby boomer that, we don't understand any of that. We go by what we see is what we say. And we have learned that that may not always be the correct thing to do. So we have to all continue to change and continue to work together for the healing of each other. Not just for what we believe and what happened in our day, but for the healing. If I want my grandchildren, if I want my children healed, I must change and learn how to communicate and associate on their level and their way, even as I teach them structure that I went through. Now, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
That's very, that definitely did. Okay. Patience and just the ability to continue to grow and learn is definitely the answer to that. and I appreciate that. But I also appreciate you bringing up gender because you're a man, so I can ask you this, or you identify as a man.
Yes.
You're a baby boomer, so you probably wouldn't say that. But I often see how there are memes on social media, conversations about how men are not allowed to show their vulnerability, or that they are having challenges in terms of mental health, and normalize men crying or men hugging and things of that nature. And much of that has been blamed on society kind of forcing men in a particular role. But recently I've seen some of that conversation be directed towards women, not allowing men to express themselves that way. And I just wonder your perspective on genders and how we allow each other the space, or what strategies we can, utilize to begin to allow each other the space to drop any particular gender roles and just be seen as an individual who has mental health challenges that need to be addressed.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. My point and my take, and I don't know how far you want to go back, if you want to go back 200 years or thousands of years. If you go back 4,000 or 5,000 of years, maybe if we look biblically, you look at a man and a woman, and as the Bible explains it, you look at Adam and Eve. And there's an explanation that Eve is taken from the rib of a man and is made into a woman. And the two of them are brought back. So it takes male and female to really be that collective oneness for what a child really needs. Now, let's fast forward up to where we're living. When we have homes where there are not the male and female being one, and the female has to try to be both, or the male has to try to be both, the male is going to fall short of nurture. Sometimes the female, most of the times a female is a great nurturer, but may not be as good disciplinarian. But if you find a good female that's a good disciplinarian, she's a little short on the nurturing part. And that's only because mentally she knows she's not that male factor, but she's trying to give that individual or that child that part that is missing. I believe that it takes two, because we are, regardless of what anybody says, you can see men and women are made up different. They're made up different. Now, our emotions can be very similar, because you can have a man very sensitive, and you can have a woman who is not sensitive at all. She can be very firm in her emotions. Now, that could be from their experience being brought up, or what they've been through, or as we said before, that can have a lot not only to do with their depressive state, but just their mental state and their character and how they made up. So when that child, in this day and time, when a child is being raised, it's a lot different now than it was. Much easier in generations before, because you can easily decide, because you had categories that explained, or that at least it showed, like if a child was having problems in school and the teacher found out only dad is at home with that child, maybe about 40 years ago, that teacher would have more consideration, because they would understand mom's not in the home. But if you have that today, and a teacher finds out that dad is raising his child and mom is not in the home, you really don't have as much consideration as, well, maybe that child was missing the mother or whatever. That teacher is just trying to get that child to come to a certain point of competencies so that child can move on to the next grade. So sometimes not intentional, but we drop the ball in our caring for one another. I can tell you this: what makes people better and more apt and develop greater than anything else is our connectivity with each other. People were made to relate. We can be as intellectual and smart, we can be geniuses, we can be everything. But if we do not relate to one another, as Dr. King says, either we have to get along as brothers or else we're going to perish as fools, because no one person has everything. So everybody needs somebody. And that's why we all must work on our relation and relating to others. Now, it's not always as easy, because we started out talking about something and I said culture. And culture is a pattern of assumptions. A pattern of assumptions, not always principles, but they are assumptions about a person, about a group, or about people, the way they operate, feel, and how they conduct themselves every day. So even in our families, we have assumptions about each other. You can have people growing up in a family and not even know each other.
And that's the interrelational question that I'm asking about men to women and women to men within families or any other personal relationship. Are we allowing the space or connecting to one another enough to make sure that the mental health support is given to our spouse, our significant other, the person of the opposite sex, or just in the community in general?
I think that we think we are, but I think really on a larger scale or more wider scale, we have been sort of led or taught by society to go after success. And sometimes success means me first. And when you look at me first, that means you have to wait. So if you have to wait, I could be neglecting you while I'm explaining to you, I'm trying to get ahead so we can be better. However, you're feeling the neglect. And sometimes I think that's where we miss it as people, because we are so tunnel focused about ourselves instead of broad focus about the whole, about everyone.
Wow.
Yeah. Right now I'm talking to people about this, and this is just a term that have come up to me lately. And well, don't excuse me, but I'm gonna use a Christian term, but you'll understand what I mean. Most people would always talk about, I'm saved, I'm going to heaven, I'm this, I'm that. That's selfish. How about your whole family? How about everybody going? How about working at it that way? So now I'm looking at talking to our whole church about whole family, not just you, but the whole family.
I mean, that's community, common unity.
Yes.
And if you kind of hit a nerve when you said that person feels the neglect, which then would thrust them into a depressive state. And even you who are achieving or working to attain success, you're working against those assumptions within yourself. And so if you don't attain it within the time that you planned or achieve the success that you expected or what have you, now that has the potential of thrusting you in a depressive state. And without the communication or the common unity of us rising together, we're both in these depressive states.
That's right.
Not supporting one another and not achieving the goal of common unity or community.
And that's where the divide comes in. And that's where we see the separation, because neither side sees the other side as supportive.
Wow. We could talk all day. I just have one more major question for you, though. And of course, you can add anything after that you want. But I do want to discuss the concept of depression as a disease. Is depression a disease? And if it is there a cure?
Now watch this. This is really going to get you. Now, depression is a disease. Depression can be cured, period. It doesn't matter how severe it is. The problem is when we use the term disease, we're always thinking about a sickness like a virus, like a sore. But disease is just what it is. It's an uneasiness when you are uneasy. So when you have depression, it is a place in your life that's very hard. It's uneasy. It's not smooth. It's not a transition. It's very, I want to say difficult, but it's beyond difficult. So the answer is yes. It can be treated. The most severe cases can be treatable. But I also want to add that it can also be cured. That's what the person that no matter how low you are have to understand. And the most common forms to treat when a person is uneasy is number one, medications with antidepressants. That's one way. And that's, what most, I guess, a lot of people experience. But the other one is just what we're talking about, therapy, which is talking it out. And that's when you go talk to a psychiatrist, you sit on the sofa and you begin to talk and talk and talk. And actually you're talking, and the goal of the psychiatrist is not to point you anywhere, but to help you discover what happened, where it is, and what you can do as a result of it to have a better outcome. So, and that's just like, you a master coach. That's what coaching is as well. Coaching don't make a person think, you just help them.
But we do point. We will point you in the right, in a direction,
yes,
a strategy.
Yes.
We add action steps to it. And are therapists kind of required to give those types of strategies, or to just listen so that you're able to gain clarity?
Well, certainly a therapist can suggest. You never want to direct as a therapist, because certainly you put yourself in risky waters and you can be blamed for a decision or something someone says. Therapists carry a lot of power with their constituents. That's why you have to be very careful at what you say and how you say what it is you say, because depression affects people differently, and their experiences are different. So even the treatment that they go to has to be different. You can't use the same thing or the same type of treatment from everyone. In fact, there's no one single treatment that works for everybody when it comes to depression, because people are different.
Yeah.
You can take medication. A medication, you can take a Wellbutrin that may help you to calm down or something like that. A medication that may make one person act one way will, even if it's a family member, will make another person act totally different, because medication also acts based on body weight and a whole lot of other things, as well. So a therapist, not a therapist, but a psychiatrist will maybe use different medications trying to get to the right medication to help a person be stable or normalized to what we call a GAF, a global area of functioning, which is their main function place, or how they function. So go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
So when it comes to depression, everyone can be cured. The key factor is the person must want help, and the person must be determined to continue to work on the help that is given to them, and understand that it's not going to be an overnight process in most cases. Especially if you're going through an eclectic mean, it's not going to be overnight. But in nothetic counseling, there has been some instances and scenarios where there has been instant cure. When a person has been elucidated to the clandestine behavioral tendencies and thought patterns that they've been in.
I think that's an awesome answer. I know we've mentioned life coaching. I can tell you as a life coach, I always point folks back to a therapist or a psychiatrist first. And because, like you said, if you're cloudy, confused, you've got all types of things that need to be sorted out, coming to somebody like me, because a coach, again, gives you those, we're working on actionable steps that have a result, an expected result. Just like if I were coaching basketball, I'm not there to talk to you for you to sit on the bench. It's so that you can go out and perform and execute with a result of getting points. So if you come to a life coach and you say you're depressed, if that coach is worth their weight, they will direct you back to somebody for you to talk to and gain clarity. Otherwise, any actionable steps you come up with, you won't be able to execute because there's still the challenge of the mind that you have to deal with.
And that's 100% correct. And remember, that's if they're at a state of clinical depression. We're not talking at this point the everyday person that's up and down. You're talking about a person that has for a long period of time been experiencing this low lack of energy, low lack of happiness, uncertainty, just have no desire whatsoever. They've lost interest and pleasure in just about people and things that they used to love to do, and for a long period of time. Yes, that type of person would need some structural clinical help, and therapeutic intervention.
Then you can come on back to me and I'll be your life coach.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, I would also say, and I would also say that a good trained pastor would be a very good scenario too. It's just that most pastors don't subscribe to a lot of counseling now, because counseling modality came from the Catholic setting, of the church. And other denominations picked it up and began to counsel with their people, and still do now. But that's more of a Catholic modality that started with that denomination.
I think the important piece to that is a well-trained pastor.
Yes.
Because you and I both know pastors who filed a LLC and became a pastor the next day.
Yeah, we're talking about those that actually went to school, earned, studied, did some applied research.
Yes.
Have some statistical data.
Yes, because this is your life and your mind that we're talking about. And we want to make sure that you get the best of help. Dr. Barnett, any other strategies, tools, anything that you would like to share concerning depression?
Yeah, I would just say the most important thing to road of recovery is that any individual would learn. One thing I do, this is just one small thing that I do. Everybody I talk to, I have them to take a 5x10 card, and I get them to write a positive statement or a positive scripture or two on that card. And whenever they begin to feel a certain way or have certain thoughts, they pull that card out and read it until they don't need the card anymore, because it's an automatic response that will come up to fight against that negative thought or the negative feeling that you had. And before long, those negative thoughts and feelings are replaced by that positive thought. And that helps you to build the serotonin, the adrenaline in your amygdala or in your brain that sends signals throughout your body, and helps you feel better all the time. So I would say build on those positive thoughts. Not just positive thoughts, but positive thoughts is where it starts. It's where it starts.
that postcard, that index card is similar to the token that AA
Yes.
recovery folks carry.
Yes. Yes.
So just to remind you that, you don't have to go back. This is a reminder how far you've come. This is a reminder how you can get past this moment and be successful. I think that is an awesome strategy. And I'm going to begin using that with some of my clients, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that is wonderful. That's one of the baseline things that I start with people who want to begin to change their thinking pattern and change their thoughts. And I'm sorry, did I say postcard?
I said postcard. That was just me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I said
pattern.
postcard or index, but yes, I meant index card if I did say postcard. And just to share, I thank you for it, but I want everyone to know that there wasn't anybody that entered into life that there was not a divine design and plan for a good life and a successful life. It's just that many things knock us off path and we just don't know how to get back there. But it starts in the mind, and it starts with good thoughts. And as long as we continue to think good thoughts and seek the help that we need, then certainly we will find our way, hopefully, back on that path.
Dr. Edward Barnett, Bishop, Behavioral Modification Specialist, Therapist, author. Would you like to tell them about your book?
Oh, okay, yes. In 2015, because of I had in DC, I had worked with adults in mental health for about 10 years, just therapy and housing and things of that nature. Before that, I worked at the state of Maryland Mental Health and Hygiene for about 8 years at Riker, Southern Maryland. And before that, I worked at state of Maryland Juvenile Justice. So I've been working with adolescents, youth, and adults for the last almost 30 years. I'm helping them to readjust and remodify their behaviors. So one thing I came up with in 2015 was a book, and it's called Livingwittingly. And this is talking about really making the difference of what we do and how we do what we do, so that they can have steps and rules to be deliberate in our actions so that we can be successful in our living. Now, this is the first copy of it. And right now, even as we speak, there is a second duplication, a second book being written on Living Wittingly, and it's called Living Wittingly on a Higher Dimension. Nice. So now we're talking about, first of all, being stabilized and living a good, well-balanced life. But once you're well-balanced, now you want to go to a higher level and higher dimension in life. And we can make it. We can get there. But it starts with getting the help that you're providing, Denise, right now, Ms. Hill, these type of shows, this type of reaching out to the community. Understand that you'll never realize the impact and the people you reach and touch by the wonderful work that you do. And we appreciate you for what you do.
Thank you. They can find that on Amazon?
Yes, it's on AmazonBooks.com, Barnes and Noble, or you can also order it from the church I pastor, Greater Grace Family Ministries.org.
Pastor Edward Barnett, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, and I've always enjoyed talking to you and love that smile. It's contagious. All right, and healing. Have a blessed day, and thank you.
As well. Thank you.
All right.